Are you a Muslim who's married or looking to get married? I'm sure you've heard that more than 50% of Muslim marriages are ending in a divorce. Now that's unfortunate, but there's help out there. My name is Hina Mirza. I'm a registered psychotherapist with a specialization in Islamic counseling. And I've been working with hundreds of couples building healthy, happy, strong marriages. Sign up for the course that I just completed with Happy Strong Family to foolproof your marriage and make sure that you have all the right tools and all the right skills to lead a healthy, happy, strong life with your partner.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My dear viewers, welcome to the Happy Strong Family podcast. I'm excited to have this podcast with Sister. I just want to make sure that I pronounce her name correctly, Laila Al-Balkhi. Alhamdulillah. She is a very well-known person educator, coach in the community. Actually, I'd like to go over some of her background. But before that, welcome, Sister Laila, to the show.
Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. So I'd like to, for audience information, I'd like to go over our background in a very summary way. So Sister Laila has a Bachelor in Applied Science degree from Ryerson University. And he has worked with children aged 6 months to 13 years of age for 5 years. And she believes that the Prophet applied empathy in parenting in teaching children like Anas ibn Malik, who served the Prophet since the age of 10. Mm-hmm. She is passionate about empathetic parenting and giving advice to parents looking for a different way of interaction with their children to better the relationship, so that love and mercy grows between the children and their parents as opposed to the resentment. And she also believes strongly in showing ihsan to your children, to your child, and as consequence, the child shows ihsan to their parent. So, and she also worked with immigrant families, refugee families as a settlement counselor, and families displaced due to domestic abuse. And her goal is to bring awareness on how to interact with your child on an empathetic level every day, making every interaction an empathetic one. So beautiful, beautiful background, beautiful approach about parenting. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I'm really, really honored to have Sister Laila in the show. So yeah, so Sister Laila, can you just elaborate a little bit of your journey and story,
Yes.
and maybe we can start on the empathy, the definition of
Yes.
empathy.
For sure, for sure. So, as you had mentioned, Brother Qaisar, I think it's best that we tell the viewers what empathy is, or to start defining what empathy is. There are many definitions, but to simplify it to the viewers, I would say empathy is to be aware of another person's thoughts, emotions, feelings, and experiences, right? This is the most simplest, basic definition. Yes.
Okay. So I just want to know, like, how you started this, like a little bit of background of your journey, a little bit of your
Yes.
stories, how you started this, and some of your maybe success stories, or some of your
Yes. Yes.
experiences.
For sure, for sure. So how this started, you can say, is through reflection, I would say. Through reflection, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often tells us in the Quran, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ, shall they not ponder, right? So this is an invitation that if you are not pondering over the Quran, you're missing out on a lot. So it started off with pondering, and then you can say it started off also me working with the kids, observing the children. I worked in nurseries, daycares, and schools. And now when I am working with the children, what I would realize is that I would remember myself in the child's shoe in that particular situation, subhanAllah. So I would be like, oh, something like that happened when I was 4 years old. And I would see it happen again in front of me, But when the teacher interacts with this child, she does it in a very empathic manner. Now, that does not necessarily happen to our generation, where we were raised in a way that's, it's known as the traditional parenting, or even traditional way of teaching. Traditional way of teaching is when you just basically, command the child to act in a particular way, and you don't give them no guidelines, or you don't give them any space to sort of even ask questions, right? So I was learning from these teachers and observing how they were interacting, and I saw how the child was responding in a way that was, subhanallah, beautiful. Like, they were not feeling upset, because the teacher never made them feel like they were less. Self-worth was still there. The child still felt self-worthy, despite how the teacher might have corrected the child. And this is what empathy is about, right? In that we correct our children in a very subtle way. That's how the Prophet did it, peace be upon him. He never did it directly, because directly will create a scratch on the child's soul. And so once you have that scratch, what's going to happen is your parents will have to now deal with therapy when children are adults. And you don't want to do that. You want to avoid that.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. So basically, we know and we see that now parents are a little bit confused about how to raise their children, right?
Yes, yes.
And of course, there are so many other elements in the society. A lot of things are happening,
Yes, yes.
locally and internationally, and it impacts our state of mental well-being and emotional well-being. And also equally, our children are also impacted by this. So
Yes.
and so in that case, like, can you share like maybe one or two examples for our normal parents, like
Yes.
maybe the
Yes.
young parents,
Yes.
compared to, like, because older parents, they have different perspectives, say, who are like 20 years or 30 years or even older, and as opposed to the younger parents, like, who have like toddlers or 5 to 10 years
That's
old.
right.
So I'm just wondering, do you like
Yes.
to share any example,
Yes.
or scenarios for the young
For sure.
parents?
And for sure. What you mentioned right now is actually very important. And the fact that, there are parents that have children who are now adults. No, we're talking about parents who are just having toddlers, for example, or 4 or 5 year olds. Actually, I want to share with you a particular scenario that I saw, subhanAllah. Once I was on a walk, and I see, subhanAllah, a mom with her child. I would say the child is 2.5 years old. The mom had so many bags with her, and she's trying to get the child to leave the car and enter inside the house. Now, the child was throwing a tantrum, right? So unfortunately, what I saw was the mom, most likely she was unaware of how she, interacted with her child, but she threw the bags and came to her daughter, and that scared the daughter, right? The daughter was not expecting that sort of, throwing of bags. Now, when I saw it, we cannot say that she was abusing the child, because she was not. She just let go of the bags. But what I want to, make point here is that things like this, throwing your bags in a way that is, careless, that creates a, subhanallah, a meaning to the child. It brings an emotion, first of all, and from that a feeling, and then from that a thought, and from that a belief. So for that child, when she saw mama throw the bags like that, she probably did not feel safe. And this is dangerous, because when children don't feel safe, especially around their moms, who else can provide the safety, right? So ideally, what we should do in such a situation, even if there's tantrums, even if you have people waiting in line, behind you, is to put the bags away calmly and then approach your daughter. Always, always approach in a way where she feels calm and peaceful around you. That is the key when it comes to empathy.
Wonderful. No, that's
Yes.
very, very important. Actually, yeah, this parenting style impacts children so much
Yes.
about shaping their psychology, mental health, emotional health. It
Yes.
is beyond descriptions. There's no
Yes.
doubt about it.
Yes.
So I have so many questions around it. So I'd like
Yes.
to go slowly.
Yes.
So let's start with the like category of parents,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I'd like to move on to like style and
Yes.
approaches and risk issues,
Yes.
gaps, etc.
Yes.
Have so many questions,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So maybe you may like to shed some light on types of parents in
Okay.
terms of whether their age, their demographics,
Yes.
or I don't know if there are other parameters you like to throw in terms of categorization of the parents, and what kind of approach and style
Yes.
should be adopted by those different category of
I see
parents.
what you mean.
And also it could be father and mother, different male female version as well.
Yes. Yes. I'm just going to say before I get into this, just for the viewers so that they are on the same page. So we started off with the definition of empathy, and then we also need to make sure that we say that empathy, for those individuals who say that, oh, I'm not so empathic, I don't know how to connect with my child, we need to remember that empathy is actually innate. It is within us. So the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all of us with empathy. Now the difference is that some people, they will develop that empathy. That's the difference. And they do it on their own or through socialization of their families, right? So in order for you to practice empathic parenting, you must develop empathy, right? And I'm just wondering, should we just start there? Like, how do you
Actually
even
that's a
develop?
great start. So like empathy, I think a lot of our audience, even myself, need to learn what is the really difference between empathy and sympathy.
Yes.
And also the other emotional aspects like love, care. You can differentiate those between empathy and the other like what is called the soft skills or qualities. So maybe you can shed a little bit more light and
For sure.
make it more clear for our audience about what empathy is in this context and how we can apply those.
For sure. So going back again, so we said empathy is being aware of the person's emotions, thoughts, feelings, and experiences, right? So you have not experienced this yourself. You've seen or you feel that another individual has experienced this, right? But because you are highly empathic, you are able to pick up on those, subhanAllah, emotions, thoughts, feelings, and experiences indirectly. So it's as if you have this lived experience, subhanAllah, right? Why that is important in empathic parenting is because in order for you to connect with your child, which empathic parenting is all about a relationship-based approach, right? It's a relationship-based approach. You're having a relationship. Each single interaction you have with your child is an open door to interact in an empathic manner. That's it, And so for you to do that, you must have developed your empathy. I'd like to mention that one way of developing your empathy is, subhanAllah, is actually through watching videos. And they, like the short videos where you have like the 30-second or the 1-minute video of like animal video or mom, daughter, merciful moment videos. I'm not sure if you've come across those. Or you have the acts of kindness compilation videos. So these sorts of videos, subhanAllah, they actually enhance your empathy. And it's important that you watch it. And once you watch it, you sit with that video, like you sit with that emotion, subhanAllah. You cannot just, I feel uncomfortable and then skip. You cannot, because you want to make sure that your body's experiencing these emotions, right? If you do this over a week, you will see yourself more connected to others. You do this after a month, mashallah, even better. And this is how you're able to then speak to your child and understand your child on a deeper emotional level.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. Thank you so much, Sister Laila.
Yes, no problem.
So I like to like understand from the practical experience base, because now our parents are struggling with many things,
Yes.
whether their personal life or career or financial life or other external, many of social community.
Yes.
So, and I'm definitely, I'm 200% sure that they want best of their
100%.
children and they
Mhm.
want to behave best. But I
Yeah.
think just because they don't know better,
Mm-hmm.
or they are not developed,
Yes.
their mental and or knowledge base is not there to
Mm-hmm.
understand or really practice the empathy. That's why they are kind of falling a little bit behind
Mm-hmm.
from that angle, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just thinking from the perspective of, in the practical scenario of a family of a, say, one kid has a 5 year or 6 year or 7 year, whatever, or 10 year, and based on the activities the children go through their life. So how a particular parent, maybe a father or mother perspective,
Mm-hmm.
how can he or she show the empathy? For example, if someone, the
Yes.
father comes from work after a whole day 9 to 5 job, maybe he's exhausted, but
Mm-hmm.
when then the child comes to, or runs to him, and how he can like show the empathy at that
Yes.
exhausted
Yes.
situation.
Yes.
It goes for mom too.
Yes.
So I'm just giving you a little bit of like a
Yes.
context. You can bring up many other contexts too,
No.
so that our audience can relate their personal life, day-to-day life, and the kind of challenging moments where it is difficult for them
Mm.
to show the empathy, whereas they even don't know what empathy is, or don't have the proper understanding of the empathy.
Yes. Okay. This is an amazing scenario you're putting here. The dad is coming back from work, 9 to 5 job, and very tired, and the children are running towards the dad, and the dad wants to show that he loves them and he also misses them. So how do you do this in an empathic manner?
Mhm.
This is very critical. And actually, this is one example that I actually share with families. Is that once you have your child approach you, I know you're coming back from a long day. I know, I understand. And I know that having children is not easy, for sure. And Allahu Alam, I do feel that parenting is probably the most difficult thing you could do, in particular, empathic parenting. But if you get it and you practice, you will be better, right? I don't think there's anything more, subhanAllah, difficult than doing parenting.
Mhm.
You could be a surgeon, you could be a doctor, you could be an astronaut, you could be a judge and a lawyer, all those combined, subhanallah. But I still think parenting, and not just parenting as in having kids, but actually doing it correctly, like the Prophet, that, subhanallah, weighs heavily. And if done properly through ihsan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will actually reward you by seeing ihsan return to you
Mhm.
from your children. So now going to that scenario here where you have your child approach you, you must match their energy. And even better, if you want to go one step even further, is to go above their energy, right? So if they're happy, oh, dad's here, and approaching you and running towards you, you must do that. You must. I'm sorry to tell you, but it's tiring. I understand it is tiring, but you must let go of things and match their energy. This is key. Match their energy and go above and beyond. I hope that answers your question.
No, that's great. Yeah, of course,
Yes.
it
Yes.
answers my question, because in my observation, I mean, of course, I'm very much limited to my observation, but whatever I saw and through the parenting workshops we are doing through Happy Strong Family for the last 8-10 years, um, I see the parents easily, are distracted with their checklists, the task list. This
Yes.
to be done, this to be done. I
Yes.
mean, I know, checklist, all this stuff, right? And whatever he sees that some improvement needs to be done, he goes straight to that particular task or assignment or
Yeah.
to-do list, right? Rather than focusing on emotional aspects of
Mhm.
how to address those. Even it goes for both mother and father, right?
Mhm.
And so, and also we know, and from the other learning process, we know that connection is very important than correction. So
That's right.
basically, when I say areas for improvement and to-do lists, etc., so basically parents are getting busy
Yes.
with the correction process
Yes.
with their children,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the connection is merely there, right? So that's how like the kids feel kind of resentment or kind of like
Yes.
distant when they hear some instructions or do this or do that.
Yes.
And so that's my point, is like how to build that connections before we do the
Yes.
correction process, and how to nurture that emotional love and care, especially from the expression. You may feel, I'm very much, as you said, the parent, the father or mother, exhausted, tired, angry, upset, sad, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but her child is coming with so much enthusiasm, showing, hey mommy, hey baba baba,
Yes.
look at this, what I did, maybe a drawing or maybe a work, etc. But okay, wait a minute, I'm busy. Maybe you're cooking, or maybe you're doing
Oh,
your
yeah.
other office work, right? Laptop, or you're looking at that video. So the point is, this ignorance and etc. doesn't really help, children getting the focus they needed, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like how both father or mother can exercise more of that um, empathetic and nurture, and especially expression of that empathy
Mm-hmm.
to their children.
Mm-hmm.
And especially mothers, many of the mothers are homemakers.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, a lot of mothers are working
Mm-hmm.
full-time job as well, but those who are full-time homemaker, they
Yes.
are constantly with their children.
Yes.
So how, again, sometimes it's more difficult for the mothers to exercise that empathy because they are constantly with their
Yes.
children and all
With
this.
their
So
children.
maybe I'm
Yes.
throwing so many questions,
No.
but maybe you can segment it and then clarify step by step.
Yes. So, Jazakumullah khairan. This is amazing. You brought in so many scenarios, and I guess we can start with the scenarios of the father having a to-do list, or even the mom having a to-do list. How do they manage that? How do they balance it? Who gets priority? So, empathic parenting is always referring to the child always having the priority. I don't care what it is. If you have a job, if you have to go to work, if your child is sick, your child gets the priority. Now, I'll give you an example. You have, for example, the mom, she's vacuuming. Okay, so let's take this example. She's vacuuming, and then she sees her daughter, who's maybe 3 years old. She's approaching, and her daughter is looking at her finger, kind of not sure what happened, and the mom's not sure, but she feels like it's not a big deal. She doesn't believe she hurt her finger. How do we approach this, in an empathic manner? SubhanAllah, the advice here, or the recommendation would be, is to turn off the vacuum. To turn off the vacuum then and there, and to approach your daughter, right? So you were doing something, you turn it off, and you approach your daughter, and you ask her what happened. What message will this send to the child, right? The message is that my mom notices me. This is the first message, right? And children pick up on these emotions. Children are very sensitive to energy, right? So the child will think, my mom notices me. My mom thinks I'm important. Notice. Number 3 is, I'm more important than her house chore, which in this case is vacuuming. Number 4 is, I'm loved by my mom. Number 5 is, I'm cared for by my mom. Number 6 is, I can count on my mom. You see how many things we brought? From the simple turning off of the vacuum, which, by the way, there's no hurt. There's no hurt. There's no bleeding, no nothing. She's just showing her daughter that she's concerned. So very intentional, very intentional. So we brought 6 things that the child will extract. And I'm not joking when I say that they do this through emotions. That is why it is imperative that you take the small things and you actually, the small things are most definitely the big things, subhanAllah, for the children.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sister Lila. I appreciate your guidance and sharing these great words of wisdom. So basically, I'd like to bring another thing, especially for the teenager perspective.
Yes.
Nowadays, and many of the cases, teenagers don't feel connected.
Mm,
There's a like common dialogue that they don't feel me.
yeah.
My parents don't feel me. That like they feel like that their friends feel them more, right?
Yes. Yes.
And maybe it started very early age, that can development of that kind of feelings or emotion that parents don't feel me. Maybe early childhood,
Yes.
he has been or she has been experiencing some
Yes.
situations.
Yes.
So how to address that, how we can you know is there any practical guidance for teenage parents, not
Yes.
teenage parents, I'm saying like
Teenage.
parents of the
Yes.
teenagers, so that they can reduce this gap and develop this feeling of, hey, parents are the one who is
Yes.
there, who feels you always. So from the teenage
Yes.
perspective, can
Yes.
you shed some lights
Yes.
and practical
No,
guidance?
this is an incredibly important point here you bring, is that with teenagers, it's a bit different. How is it different? Is that the teenager expects from their parents respect. And I know that parents are thinking, wait a minute, I'm the parent, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, what happened to that, But truth be honest, truth be told, is that in order for us to see ihsan from our children, you must show that to your teenager child, right? And so I guess we can take an example. I don't know if you have something in mind, something specific, or
I mean, teenagers normally, when they feel disconnect, they tend to
okay.
get into other sources which would give them feel
Yes.
a sense of respect and importance, such as boyfriend, girlfriend,
Yes.
or
Okay.
movies, or drugs, or hang out with other friends.
Yeah.
They are more extrovert, or like going outside, or
Yes.
even not only outside, maybe they're into online more.
Yes.
They're just into their room always, all the time.
Yeah.
They just show up for food, take the food, and
Yes.
go inside their room, all these kind of things. So these are the like symptoms, I would say, or I would say outcome of not
Yeah.
having this. So maybe yeah, so I don't know whether
When
you
it
are looking at that, or do
Yeah, when it comes to that, this is like the damage has already done. I'm sorry to say, the damage has done here.
right.
When your child is hanging out more with their friends than with you, when they're eating by themselves, the damage has already been done. But inshallah, there's still hope. Okay, we need to still remain hopeful.
Right, right.
Yes.
Maybe you can focus on the
Yeah.
like how to avoid that from happening.
Yes.
Maybe you can start from there.
Yes. How to avoid this from happening is to, every single interaction that you have with your child, you put your child first, right? And you do it in a way where it does not, again, I repeat, it does not scratch their soul. It does not hurt their self-worth, right? As we all know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yani, karram bani Adam. He has honored bani Adam. But nowadays, even, years before, unfortunately, we see that parents will disgrace their children. They will disgrace their children, and they are proud. They are proud to do it, right? So subhanallah, like I don't know, I don't understand how, a lot of the parents, they expect, respect to come just like that. They need to be the role model for respect. Let's just say that the parents need to be the role model for respect. If the damage has happened, then you take it day by day. An example of that, if you want me to give, is
Maybe how to do the role modeling.
yes. Okay. So how to do the role modeling would be, just thinking here, an example.
Say
Yeah.
and like teenager,
Yes. If
she's
you.
cooking something and
Yes.
she's messing up the
Yes.
kitchen, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just or and leaving all the things for parents to clean
Yes.
up.
Yes.
Maybe, and she does it on a continuous basis,
Yes.
regardless of repeated reminders.
Yes.
So how do you address that? How to correct, or maybe even correct, how to connect and then correct?
That's right. That's right. So you gave an example, Brother Qaisar, that your teenager is in the kitchen. She's trying to make something, but she leaves the mess behind, So in that case, what I would do is not say a thing. When it comes to empathic parenting, remember, you're following the prophetic way. And he did not say it directly, because again, When you say it directly, it scratches the soul, right? And then you have to do healing and therapy and all that. So what I would do if I was in that position, watching my daughter, is I would stay quiet and I would clean it myself. Okay. The next time, though, I will do the cooking. If she wants to do it, I can ask her, perhaps you can help me today. And so when I'm cooking, I'm being like, I'm showing her where to put things, but without saying a thing. Okay. Children learn. Children are very smart. You don't even need to tell them what to do. If they see you do it, especially graciously and not being bothered, I know it's difficult to say, but you got it. No, nobody said parenting is easy. Nobody said parenting is easy, subhanAllah, but you do it yourself. You clean and you let her see you without saying a word. The next time, I'm telling you, at least one thing she has improved. Perhaps, she has, at least wiped the counters.
Right. No, these are like easy scenario I'm bringing, but
Yes.
but the more difficult, say, if someone gets into, say, haram relationship, boyfriend girlfriend relationship, how to even correct that. I'm not going into each and every scenario, because each and every scenario will need a lot of time to go over. But I'm just saying, there are like pre pre-accident stage and post-accident stage, right? So how to deal with that, and how to do role modeling is in a general approach our modern day parents can take, and why they are falling behind. Is there any proactive approach they can take? Because, say, we have been offering parenting workshop, and from a lot of program services available. So what I'm trying to say, how to better prepare for the parents, and also at the same time, whether the relationship between husband and wife would play a vital role in teaching or doing parenting, right?
Yes.
So maybe you can cover some of these aspects as well.
Yes. Okay. So you want me to talk about haram? Basically, what you're saying here is the damage has already been done, right? The damage has already been done. Again, I would say take it day by day. So I don't go right at it. If you know that your daughter has gone through, friendships that are not good, whatever it may be, then slow by slow, approach her. Maybe you could start off by saying, today I'd like to go to the mall with you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? If she says, no, I don't really want to go. I was thinking perhaps you wanted to buy that new bag. You know what I mean? So try to draw her in, but do not be pushy. If she says no, then no. Try that again by the end of the week. Be very slow. With the children, go slow and allow them to feel that they are in control. I know that we as parents will, get upset because it's how are they in control? But if you want them to take control of their behaviors, you have to first give them some freedom, subhanAllah, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go slow by slow. Don't attack them right away and be like, why are you going out with your friends? No, just start off by saying, do you want to go out to the mall perhaps? Slow by slow.
Wonderful. No, that's a great point. Thank you so much, Sister Laila. So I think,
problem.
Kashif bhai, we got some questions from the audience, so maybe you can start.
Yes, just like to let the audience has any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. So one of the questions we had received from Instagram ahead of time was, how do you balance empathy with the need to discipline and set boundaries for children?
Yes.
So is this a misconception? Like, if you're showing empathy, can you not be disciplined? Or so I'll ask you that.
This is a very good question. Very good question, subhanAllah. So just because you show empathy does not mean that you do not correct. The key point here is the correction is very subtle. It's very subtle. This is how the Prophet did it. So I'll give you an example of a scenario, subhanAllah, that happened was when I believe it was Anas ibn Malik who the Prophet had told him to go get something done for him, like a task, right? So, Anas ibn Malik has taken some time, longer than usual. And so the Prophet goes outside to check upon him, and he sees Anas ibn Malik playing with the boys. They're playing together. SubhanAllah. Instead of correcting him, directly, he simply smiles at him and tells him, oh, you're still playing. You see what I'm saying? It's very subtle. Do not give a hint that you're even correcting. You know what I mean? So we would need a specific example, inshallah, if that viewer is still with us, if she has a particular example that she's facing, and inshallah we can dissect that, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan,
Yes,
Sister Laila.
yeah,
Jazakallah
Yeah.
khair. Yeah, so
Yeah.
sorry, the integration with the question is not working today, so I'm just trying to manually
Uh,
type them so they can display. So this one was saying, in moments of frustration, I revert back to ways that my parents raised me, which may not be the healthiest. In those moments of frustration, especially in public settings, how do you teach yourself to control from reverting to old parenting techniques?
right. This is an incredibly important question as well. What we need to remember is that when we are interacting with our children, every interaction is either nourishing them or scratching their soul. So you as a parent, go about your day with your child and remind yourself that I'm either like genuinely scratching their soul or I'm healing it and nourishing it. You know what I mean? So when you have that right mindset of scratching the soul or healing it and nourishing it, everything changes. And of course, before that, you're making dua, oh Allah, please allow me to be one who, parents through empathy, just like the Prophet, peace be upon him. That's where it starts. And just take your time. You don't need to correct directly, like I mentioned. Just take your time with everything.
Jazakallah khair. So the next, I'll just ask a follow-up question.
Sure.
So, the question was asking about going back to old parenting ways and
Yes.
the way they were raised. But the other factor here also may be, like, especially for a lot of our audience, is that, we're in Canada here and they've immigrated to Canada. So now not only is there a generational gap, but there's a cultural gap also. And in the ways that parenting is done in their home countries, it might not be the same as here. So what advice do you have for parents that are sort of maybe used to the authoritarian way of parenting, and
Yes.
which will, may not work here in this context and setting, being
For
in
sure.
Canada, right? So what advice do you have for parents that maybe there's also a cultural shift they need to
Yes.
make?
So, Jazakumullah khairan. All these questions are actually on point, mashallah. We have to understand that, yes, this is our culture, but it's not our faith. It is not our deen. So we have to unlearn. We just have to unlearn it. And we have to start, following the Prophet. This is my strongest advice. I cannot tell you to, continue with whatever you've been taught or how you've been raised. You must, subhanAllah, make dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you.
Yeah, I know that. I just want to add that I know even Ali radiallahu anhu, he was saying,
Yes.
like, we raised differently and our kids are raised differently.
Yes.
Our time is different. I think I'm just paraphrasing. So even in that time, from that era, we understand that is generation to generation, the parenting style or the environment,
Yes.
or factors, etc., could be different.
Yes.
And there's need for change and adaptation, and also building new strategies to
Yeah.
do the parenting.
For example, social media.
Yeah.
They didn't have social media at the time,
Right.
but we do. So how do we interact with our children, keeping in mind that this is something they're always, having in their hand and all of that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Ashibay, any other question?
Yes, we have a few more. So the next one that had come in was, my older child yells and screams at younger child, 6 years old and 2 years old. How can empathetic, sorry, I struggle with that word of it, saying it, parenting help and be applied to this situation?
Yes. Okay, so we should also mention that empathic and empathetic are actually interchangeable, and it's easier to say empathic actually. But I'm not sure if this sister has is this child with a disability, the 6-year-old. If your child is with a disability, you just have to be extra patient, right? And how I would do, let's just assume that he does not have a disability. How I would do it is by then and there, as when he is yelling at your other child, is to approach him calmly and stop him. You cannot keep it happening, because your second child is thinking, why is my mom not protecting me? You know, is getting scared, is seeing the older, you know, brother or sister, you know, being more violent. The relationship there as they grow is not going to be, is not going to be healthy. So stop the 6-year-old then and there by approaching them calmly, and perhaps, you know, taking them calmly. Again, when you hold your child, it is very warmly, even though it's a chaotic situation, but you're still holding them warmly, and you're taking them, you know, to the side, and you're trying to see what's going on, and based on that, inshallah, you can work it out. But you must stop it, for sure. You must stop it. I should also add that it needs to be made clear to the 6-year-old and to any other child in the family that no one yells at no one. We don't do that in this household. So that it's a rule, right? It's a rule. But initially, you're taking them to the side calmly. Yeah.
Great point.
Jazakallah khair. So the next question that came up here is, what challenges might parents face when trying to adopt an empathic parenting style, and how can they overcome these obstacles? So what are the challenges they might face if they're switching to this parenting style?
What are the challenges they may face? Okay. The challenges would be to remind themselves initially that they have to adopt this mindset, right? The fact that they need to remind themselves that they need to adopt this mindset, and that they're going to have to be more patient with themselves. They're going to have to, take time to themselves if they feel like they are not collecting themselves. So they got to be patient, and they got to make sure that they are coming with the right mindset, that it's empathic parenting, and I have to let go of whatever parenting I was doing before. Yes.
Jazakallah khair. Just a follow-up that I have to that is, one term we hear a lot these days,
Yes.
and we've done podcasts on it, is mindful parenting.
Yes.
So is mindful and empathic parenting the same? Is empathic parenting a subset of mindful parenting? Is there a difference?
Yes.
Or?
Okay, so mindful parenting is basically you, as a parent, being mindful on a day-to-day basis of that which you do, right? So you may just be calmer in your interactions with your children. You may tell them to, get dressed, but you're not going to hurry them up, right? You're going to respect the fact that they're going to take their time to put on their clothes, to remove their clothes, to brush their teeth, right? However, if it's mindful parenting, it's not enough, because sometimes you can say certain things that are still going to scratch the soul of your child, unfortunately. Okay? Even if you are doing mindful parenting, you might miss out on that.
Okay,
Yes.
Jazakallah khair. So for parents that are looking to sort of adopt empathic parenting style, like, is there any resources? What would you recommend to them? One thing I do want to point out, and you've generously provided your email address, which I've also been displaying on the screen as we've been going here. So the email address is on the screen. I'll add it to the description also, so people can also follow up with you if need be. I think you offer consultations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you speak a bit more about that and what you offer. But for parents, like, what resources would you sort of recommend for them? Maybe this is the first time they're hearing these terms, so even to sort of start looking into it, or where do they go after this podcast?
Yes. I would basically just look up perhaps videos on how the Prophet, peace be upon him, would raise his child. This is the safest way, safest route. Nothing else is in this way of parenting, right? So just to be clear, just follow or YouTube any video that talks about how the Prophet, peace be upon him, parented his children.
Jazakallah khair. And yeah, we are displaying your email address. So maybe if you can also talk about, like, if someone was to contact you, like, what
Yes.
do you offer? How do you work with parents? Or...
Yes. So I do one-on-one consultations, and we could do this over Zoom or we could do this in person. Ideally, I'd like to meet with the family first, the mom and dad, when I say that, and then the second time they can bring in their child, right?
Okay,
Yes.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair.
Yes.
So I think that's it for the questions for now. So Brother Kasser, I'll pass it off to you to either continue the conversation or to wrap up, inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Kashif. Very wonderful questions, very important. Thank you, Sister Lala,
Yes.
for clarifying those. So I have a few questions, then we can wrap up. Um, so I have a question for the children of adolescence age.
Mhm.
Is there any specific style of parenting a parent should adopt to address like a specific like a personality traits or normally what happens during adolescence age for both boys and girls? Is there any specific thing a parent should be aware of? Because sometimes mothers are more aware of different changes, but fathers are not so much of aware of those stuff. So
Mhm.
but again, it goes through many not only physical change but also mental, emotional, different kind of
Mhm.
changes
Mhm.
happens, right? So what are the things that a parent should be mindful of to address those or to deal kids of adolescent
Mhm.
age?
Um, Giving them freedom. Yes, giving them freedom at that age.
Hmm.
And when I say freedom here, I mean freedom to, like, if they want to dye their hair, what color. We have parents here that are picky when it comes to that. If they want to go on a trip with their friends, school trip, give them the option of yes or no. These things, they really do help, and they make your children respect you and want to listen more from you, right? And that's what we want as parents. We want our children to listen to us, right? So, but you have to give them that freedom first. And when you give them freedom, they understand this as respect. So my parents are giving me freedom. That means they care about me, they love me, they respect me, they want the best for me, and therefore I must return this to them. I must, like, there's no other way, subhanallah. So that's where the verse, subhanallah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, hal jaza'ul ihsani illa al-ihsan, right? Is the reward of good anything other than good, right? So you will see that from your child once you apply that sort of parenting, inshallah.
Okay, wonderful, great
Yeah.
point. I like to just expand onto this because freedom may be translated in different ways based
Yes.
on various like kind of learning
Yes.
process that we go through, whether it's in our family or personal or friend circle or community, society, whatever.
Yeah.
So how to ensure that we exercise the concept of freedom
Yeah.
rightfully, that will adhere the principles or boundaries of Islam, i.e., not letting
Very
this
good
use
question.
of freedom word to get into haram, right? So
Yes, very, very good question. So yes, I know there needs to be a balance, but let's be frank. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does say in the Holy Quran, there's no compulsion in religion, right? So if I have a daughter who I very much want her to be protected and I want her to wear the hijab, we have to remind ourselves as parents that there's no compulsion in religion. Make her love the hijab. Why don't we come at it from that sort of approach, right? Why is it always direct? Why can't we just make it subtle? Perhaps, go to a bazaar and you're going there to buy her a purse, but then maybe pass by the hijab store. And as you're looking through the scarves, you can say, oh my gosh, that hijab would look so nice on you. Don't make it your idea that she should wear the hijab, right? She should want to do this herself. The idea here is to empower your child. It is to empower your child and not to control your child like the traditional type of parenting. It's empowering your child, and this is empathic parenting, subhanallah.
that's a great point.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think I just what I learned from you and also from others. I think the environment is a critical factor in terms of how we raise children. And of
Yeah.
course, our dealing with the children should be more empathetic, more love and care oriented, and not always an instruction, not correction, not harsh tone. Again, tone is also a very important
That's right.
factor. I mean, always I see, high pitch in when you
Yes.
talk to your children. I mean, parents tend to like more commanding voice, hey, do
Yeah.
this or do that, and all this stuff, right? But why not more subtle, more, as you said, caring
Yes.
and loving, and kind of
More
low
soft.
tone, more
More
softer,
soft.
yeah. So
Warmer.
exactly,
When I'm talking to my child, it's warm tone.
warm, yeah.
We can't, it's not just talking nice to the neighbors, okay? Our priority here is our children, right?
Children.
خيركم خير لأهله,
Exactly.
right? This is the priority. So if you're going to ever speak so sweetly, it is to your children,
Yeah.
and to your spouse,
That's right.
right? They get priority. So speak to them most softly, right? When I'm touching them or caressing them, they sense this touch. Is it a loving one? They are able to sense it. Is it a loving one, or is it a neutral one?
Neutral.
Or you know what I mean? They sense that. They're very sensitive to energy. So calm voice, warmer, caressing, warm caressing. When you're looking at them, it's, you're looking at them with warmth. This is all part of empathic parenting.
That's great.
Yes.
Excellent.
Sorry, just a quick
uh-huh.
question. So I was just looking at the notes, and I don't know, forgive me, maybe we did discuss it. When I'm producing here, I sort of miss bits of the conversation when you're monitoring a few things. But one of the things you had in the notes is that empathy is taqwa-based parenting.
That's right.
I don't know if we discussed that, but what exactly did you mean by
Yes.
that? And what is, maybe for the audience, like, what is taqwa and why is empathy
Yes.
taqwa-based parenting?
It is, yes. Okay, let's go over it before. So the reason why it's, first of all, what is taqwa? Taqwa is to protect yourself. And, you're protecting yourself, you're shielding yourself from the punishment of Allah, hellfire, right? When you're watching out for every single thing that you're going to say, you're protecting yourself from hellfire, right? Because again, when we say empathic parenting, you're looking out for what you're going to say and how you're going to say it, right? So we can say that empathic parenting is a form of taqwa-based parenting.
Jazakallah khair. So thank you
Yes.
guys. Saw that in the notes, so I just want to bring it up. And then the final thing I'll sort of ask is, a lot of people will be watching this, inshallah, they'll benefit for it. But the question they'll ask is like, why does it matter? Why, empathy-based parenting?
Yes.
Why does it matter? The often thing, we do a lot of parenting stuff, and we talk to people trying to get them to come to the workshops. And one of the things that we hear most often is, well, my parents didn't look into all of this and I turned out fine,
I heard
right?
that, yeah.
So why is this important?
So it's important because, again, as we say, that this is, you're going to be accountable for each thing that you say and each thing that you do. How you come to your child and caress your child. If you do it in a warm way, you're going to be rewarded for that, right? It's not about, subhanAllah, I was raised in a particular way. This is this is a type of narcissistic quality where, it's not fair that I was treated this way. I'm not going to parent my children a better way. Can you imagine? Like, subhanAllah, it doesn't make sense. It's outside the Islamic tradition. We don't do that. You're best to your children. You're best to, the way you talk is best to your children. The most warmth, tone of voice is with your children. Everything is extra special with your children, right? My tone of voice. I don't say, for example, I spoke to her. No, I say her name. This is very critical again, because you want to make sure that you're nourishing their soul. When you say her or he, it's a form of disrespect that the child takes in and understands, which basically means we're scratching the soul of the child, right? And we don't want that.
Right. So Jazakallah khairan
Yes.
for the question, Sister Laila. So I just, before I conclude, last one question.
Yes.
So I know there are a lot of single parents out there.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of questions from the single parents as well, like either father or mother is responsible to raise their kids. So
Yeah.
how to really fill up that gap of not having the other all the time. As a single parent, how we can make sure that we establish that empathetic parenting,
Yes.
uh, and the single parent can happen in different ways, whether the someone has passed away, or divorce may happen, or you
That's
don't know.
right. That's right.
So
Yes.
and again, even in case of divorce, one situation, in case of one parent passed away,
Yes.
it's another situation. So how do you like to address this?
Yes. You still must follow through on empathic parenting. So just because you have a spouse that's not, in the household for whatever reason it may be, you still must uphold empathic parenting to, to the best, most finest possible way, right? Now, what may help with that is obviously involving your community. So, getting your children, subhanAllah, involved in the masjid, for example, or in extracurricular activities, because this will help reduce the pressure on you. Empathic based parenting, which is taqwa-based parenting, it requires a lot of energy because it's 24/7 watching out for what I say and how I say it. You know, maybe I should have said something, but I didn't. And this will also create an emotion and a feeling and a thought for your child. So it's energy consuming. It's not easy, but this is the empathic, prophetic way of parenting your child. This is the tradition. This is what we need to follow. According to what Allah told us, we need to follow the Prophet. And if you're not doing that, you're not following the tradition. You're not. Let's be frank, right? So when you get them busy in certain areas, you as a single mom can calm down, inshallah, and give time to yourself and, rejuvenate when you're by yourself, doing self-care things.
That's great. So
Yes.
before I just conclude, I just want to
Yes.
make sure that is there anything else you'd like to mention for our audience, or anything that you think it would be beneficial for our audience?
Subhanallah. I think we mentioned it all. I do believe we mentioned everything. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. Thank you
Yes.
so much,
No
Sister
problem.
Lila. Appreciate your presence here. Thank you
Yes.
for coming. So, for our audience, this is parenting is a skill to develop. Actually, it is should not be taken granted. It is something requires knowledge, and one has to go through that knowledge gaining process. And someone needs to reach out to different programs, services, and coaches like Sister Lila, and many other organizations. Also, Happy Strong Family has been offering a parenting workshop for many years. So we need to make sure that we need to learn this skill, exercise this skill, develop ourselves in terms of knowledge, in terms of applying the knowledge, developing the mental health skill, emotional intelligence, etc., so that we can play a role model, a nice role model for our children. And we definitely want the best, but again, how the best would come, that requires knowledge. And alhamdulillah, Islam covers every aspects of emotional, mental development, and all these empathetic aspects of parenting. So we should be going back to Quran and Sunnah, read those thoroughly on this angle. And also there are more books and scholars now they are offering this program. So I think I would encourage you to do all of this, because modern day parents are facing a lot of challenges. And of course, children are directly impacted by how the parents are, basically, actually I would say the well-being of parents would impact our children well-being as well. So with that, I'd like to encourage you to stay tuned with your YouTube channel. Please subscribe our YouTube channel and social media. Stay tuned, and looking forward to see you again. Thank you so much. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.